Hi YouTubers, it's Fortune Cookie 45LC coming to you from the Hot Lead Zone. And today's topic is the 44 Smith & Wesson Special. We're going to talk about it and we're going to reload it. So here is a 44 Special on the left compared to a 38 Special on the right, just for comparison. And the interesting thing about these two cartridges is that the Special designation was used back in the turn of the century 1900. And that was done because that was a famous period for the coming of smokeless powder. And so actually the 38 Special, the 44 Special, and the 32 Winchester Special were all developed during that time. It was a great time for cartridges to be developed because of the coming of smokeless powder. And the 44 Special would never have come along if it weren't for smokeless powder. Originally loaded with 246 grain round nose lead bullets, the accuracy of the 44 Special made it very popular with target shooters for many years. But the power potential of the 44 Special was not realized until Elmer Keith experimented by using slow burning smokeless powders and his Keith designed bullets to create higher power levels for the 44 Special. So one of the precepts of the Keith designed bullets is that more of the weight of the bullet is in the nose, longer nose, and that left more room in the case for powder. And that caused more velocities to be able to be realized, and Elmer Keith was a pioneer of that. Now, of course, this led in 1955 to the creation of the 44 Magnum. And again, the case was lengthened and the Magnum loadings were available in its own caliber. But notice here's the same bullet loaded in the 44 Magnum on the right to compare with the 44 Special. But now let's take a trip down memory lane and go back to what Keith was doing back in the 1930s with the 44 Special. So there's the goal on the left, loaded rounds of 44 Special with the 245 grain Keith semi-wad cutter bullet, and that's what you see there in the middle. There's the empty casing of the 44 Special on the right. So these are components that we'll need to make the reloads. The bullet, the case. We're going to use Wolf primers, large pistol, and accurate number 7 powder to realize loadings in the 44 Special that was never dreamed of back in 1907. So from time to time I like to check out a website online, Steve's Reloading Data. And if you go there, you can look up the caliber and your bullet weight and get some general ranges for powders that can be usable. But Steve's Reloading Data doesn't give you specific bullets or whether they're jacketed or lead, so it's a general guideline. Always verify with published reloading data. So what I did was went to the Lee Reloading Manual, and I went to the Accurate Reloading Manual because after all we're using accurate number 7 powder. And then I always verify by going to the Lyman Reloading Data to come up with a proper load or a good safe load to begin working with this bullet and caliber combination. So YouTubers, the reloading manuals specify that the 1.160 is the maximum length allowable for the 44 Special. Well, this is fired brass, and all my brass has been fired a lot, and none of it even gets close to 1.160. They're all in the 1.14 range. So I never trimmed any of these, and in fact I've never trimmed any of my straight wall pistol brass for the last 40 years. And experienced no problems with accuracy or crimping or consistency or this kind of thing. So certainly you can trim your brass down to 1.13 if you wish, but it's a lot of work and it may not have to be done. So here's our Dillon 550B reloading press, And what we do is we take that center pin out with a big Allen wrench, take that pin, comes straight up out of there, and that allows us to change the shell plate to 44 Magnum 44 special caliber. And then that big pin goes back in and tightens down, and then we back it off until we have free movement of the shell plate indexing ring. However, go ahead and tighten that set screw on the ram, on the left hand side of the ram, so that our adjustment for the tension of the index ring advance is set and will not change during the reloading of our cases. Now here is a raw Dillon die holder. The die holder goes into the press, and our reloading dies are put in and adjusted, and once we get them adjusted, they're secure. You don't have to make any more adjustments after the first adjustment. So the first thing we do is take our resizing die. That's the one in the center. That's in station 1. And that's simply adjusted by raising the ram and then lowering that resizing die until it touches the shell plate. Now, if we're using carbide dies, you want to back that off just a hair and then tighten down the lock ring. And there's your resizing adjustment done. Now, adjusting the powder and expanding and mouth flaring die, simply done by lowering the die far enough so that you get the right amount of flare on the cartridge case. And once you have that, you go ahead and set up your powder measure on there, tighten it down, and load the powder that you want. Then start throwing a charge, and then adjust that little screw there on the right hand side of the powder measure, right there in the center of the screen, until you get the right charge. Now we always verify the accuracy of our powder measure charge by using a good electronic or balance beam scale. So here you see 8.9 grain charge, and you'll see that this will be consistent as we check it every once in a while during our reloading process that we're getting 8.9 grains, and this gives us lots of confidence. Now the bullet seating die is easy to adjust. We keep the die body backed out so that it doesn't do any crimping, and then that center stem is simply adjusted until the bullet seating depth is what we want. So after the bullet is seated into the right depth, then I like to do the crimping as a separate procedure using the fine Lee factory crimp die. It is the best crimp in the business because there's no chance of any bulging occurring with the cartridge case below the crimp caused by the crimp. Now Elmer designed his Keith bullet to have a very nice crimping groove, and you want to target the bottom of that crimping groove, that little sharp corner down there. That's where you want the case mouth to be when you get the bullet seating depth adjusted, right to that point. If we get some bullet lube into the crimping groove by mistake during our lubing and sizing procedure, doesn't matter. In fact, that works even better because we get a little bit more lube up front where it counts. So here's the essence of progressive reloading. We've got our shell holder filled with cases in various stages of reloading. Now we've gone ahead and seated primer, and we've finished the work of seating a bullet. So now the next step is to advance the shell holder, place a bullet on top of the case in station 3 that's already got the powder charge, put a new case in station 1, and then we're ready to work the ram again. So there's the cases all going into the dies, and 4 procedures are being done at once. Come down to the bottom, seat the primer, and a powder charge case has already been done. Advance the shell holder, drop the loaded round, put another bullet on top of the case in station 3, new case in station 1, and now we're ready to work the ram again. Come down to the bottom of the stroke, seat the primer, and we can inspect that at any time, and it's below the case head, it's fine. Now we're ready to advance the shell holder again, drop the loaded round, and repeat. Bullet, new case, work ram, come down, seat primer, and we're ready to go again. We keep doing this until our job is done with a loaded round with every stroke of the handle. So YouTubers, here's a cylinder full of fun for our 44 Special and 44 Magnum pistols, and it's actually a plus P loading for the 44 Special with 245 grain Keith semi-wad cutters, good for any use in the range or at the field, plinking, target shooting, even hunting. And I think Elmer Keith would approve, and this has been a nice trip down memory lane with the 44 Special. Well, one characteristic of progressive reloaders is that before you know it, you've loaded up lots of ammo. But that's the whole idea, isn't it?